Hello, everyone, and welcome to the much anticipated launch of Rossum Aurora 1.5 and Copilot. This is a huge day for us at Rossum, and we're very excited to have you join us as we unveil our most powerful AI engine and innovative features yet. Today, we're going to be joined with an incredible lineup of speakers who are going to bring today's launch to life. First thing, Rossum co-founder and Chief Technology Officer, Peter Baudes. Peter is going to walk us through the updates of Rossum Aurora 1.5, showcase all the new things when it comes to instant learning, and he's going to demonstrate to us all the updates with high-speed document processing. Next, we have Christoph Wiss from IAG GBS. He's the automation lead, and he's going to be sharing with us his experience with Rossum's Copilot for Formula Fields and how it had enabled his team to transform their operations and become more efficient. And lastly, our very own pre-sales engineer, Matt Brass, who's going to take things to the technical side and give us a hands-on look into how all these things work. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi,
Great
hello.
to have you with us. But first, let's walk through the agenda. We're going to begin with a quick look back at Rossum Aurora 1.0, followed with all the exciting updates of Rossum Aurora 1.5, in addition to a demonstration that's going to be led by my colleague Matt, who's going to show us formula fields with Copilot. And then we're going to follow things with a customer fireside chat, which I know for sure Peter and Christoph is going to give us a very exciting conversation. Lastly, we will have a Q&A session, so please do add your questions from wherever you are watching us, and we'll address them towards the end. And now, without further ado, I hand things over to our co-founder and Chief Technology Officer, Peter. Peter, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Rami. I'm excited to be here with you all. I believe we have hundreds of viewers across many different platforms. And I'm really excited to talk about our newest AI developments at Rossum related to end-to-end automation of document-based business transactions. But first, let's briefly recap Rossum Aurora, the new data capture AI engine that we brought to the intelligent document processing market in January of this year. Because Rossum Aurora is unique compared to any other large language model-based offering in three critical aspects, and it's worth repeating that. First, it offers trustworthy automation. We have a discriminative decoder technology that is not prompt-based, and therefore it avoids all the typical LLM risks, and we generate AI confidence score for each single data point. Second, the accuracy is in a class of its own. When we moved from our previous market-leading models to Aurora, we reduced the error rates by a third. And we made more dramatic improvements in January, actually. More on that soon. Third, we introduced the instant learning technology to speed up Aurora rollout to specific use case. Something that's critical for actual field adoption. And the first thing to usually impress our users is seeing Rossum AI learning in real time in front of their eyes. The technology underpinning Rossum Aurora is a new foundational model that we created at Rossum. We call it TLLM, or the Transactional Large Language Model, and it brings three advantages to the table. First, it makes Aurora a fast and self-learning AI engine because we designed it to get smarter with each end-user interaction. So you don't need a specialized IT team or a complex data science infrastructure to make it work for you. Second, the TLLM has been trained on millions of transactional documents, so it understands the nuances of real-world data. And thanks to the built-in confidence scores, you'll know exactly how accurate the data is and be able to avoid costly errors. Of course, large language models could hallucinate information, but Aurora is actually not a generative model, but a promptless discriminative one. And in practice, that means it maintains the integrity of your data, and it can deliver reliable results into your downstream system. And we have built Aurora with safety in mind, because we do know how critical your data is, and therefore your documents never leave Rossum secure servers. We are ISO 27001 certified. We are SOC 2 audited. And that means we meet the highest standards of data protection and operational security. And we believe you should remain in control of how much of your data is used to improve Aurora's learning. We have heard so much great feedback from our users across use cases and industries, and we here just picked two examples, both Veolia, which is a major European utility company, and Wolt, the iconic food delivery company. They both appreciate both the instant learning and the automation capabilities that Aurora brought to them. And looking back, Rossum Aurora really transformed how much value we can deliver to our users, and we are now able to deliver use cases that are 40% more complex on average. I believe this showcases the enterprise adoption of Rossum Aurora, and we are able to do that with 90% less training data. That means 10 times less training data, and that's a testament of how easy to adopt Rossum Aurora is in practice. And we keep improving. One thing to notice, Aurora 1.0, it was not a static release, and since the January launch, we actually continuously update our models, and these updates further reduced the average error rate across customers by additional 25% since the launch. So Rossum Aurora 1.0 was a great leap towards our mission, so that one person is able to process 1 million documents per year. However, enterprise document processing is hard, and we know that enterprises still need more. So what are the challenges? First, enterprises are multinational. You could even say many national, because an average Fortune 500 company operates in more than 70 countries. And that's not just where their customers are, but also where their supply chain is, where their operations are, and so on. And this brings a whole slew of extra challenges, like many languages, written in many different scripts, different country standards around accounting and other practices. Depending on region, 10% or to 30% of documents may have some handwriting, and of course, the number of suppliers sometimes going to even hundreds of thousands for such an enterprise. And let's not even talk about EDI and e-invoicing standards. In fact, we did talk about exactly the same that challenge in our September e-invoicing launch, so you can check that one out. Second, Deloitte, in their analysis, they identified that 46% of CIOs are blocked by skill shortage. In other words, the enterprises have custom needs and they have specific processes, but also they are bottlenecked by availability of IT skills internally to implement them in new solutions. And these two facts combined, they mean that process automation implementations often fail. In fact, according to McKinsey research, companies are capturing only 25% of the cost savings that they expected from digital and AI transformations. So at Rossum, we are thinking how to change that. We hear the enterprises out. They need a single global solution that can process documents in all languages without the need for heavy IT involvement in each region, and that therefore delivers on the promised automation outcomes, which is why we are incredibly excited to unveil our answer to this challenge. Ladies and gentlemen. So today we are launching Rossum Aurora 1.5 and formula fields with Copilot. Rossum Aurora 1.5, it represents a major update to the Rossum unique transactional LLMs that we launched in February. And formula fields with Copilot enable admins to reliably configure data transformations using plain language in a fraction of time. So let's take a look at how those two releases solve the enterprise need for one global solution. in order to support many national enterprise deployments, we are excited to announce Rossum Aurora 1.5. It brings the instant learning technology to 276 languages, and it also includes 30 languages support for handwriting. And this means that regardless of the per document layout for all these languages, Aurora will learn from user annotations and improve accuracy with each subsequent document. Also, Rossum Aurora is designed for heavy-duty field usage, and that's why we introduced 4 times faster processing of long 100+ page documents. And second, to reduce the needed IT involvement, we are introducing Rossum formula fields with Copilot. It's a brand new way to configure data transformations by process admins without programming knowledge. So data transformations are something critical in intelligent document processing, especially to tweak the process region by region. And on average, across pilot runs with our real-world customers, they can now be configured 90% faster using formula fields. And even in the case of the most complex data transformations, we never saw them take more than 3 minutes to configure with our Copilot. Well, let's deep dive, starting with instant learning in Rossum Aurora 1.5. Imagine a shared service center. What happens if they need to onboard a new language, starting from the left-hand side? They have to deal with OCR technology that's often very limited for non-Latin languages. Even if they have a document processing solution that's powered by AI, you would typically need up to 5,000 documents to train the AI in the given language, and that's a big entry barrier. And very often, you have to use a different solution in a different country because your vendor of choice just doesn't support all languages. And the whole thing is, of course, incredibly costly, and that adds a lot of risk to any project. So remember the disappointing cost savings by McKinsey? This is one place the cost saving leaks out. The canonical way to de-risk IDP projects is to have adaptable AI that learns based on your needs over time, and the faster it adapts, the better, of course. That means we have to talk about it. How does document processing AI adapt in terms of accuracy over time? Other non-Rossum IDP solutions that brand themselves as AI often follow this green curve on this graph. It's a bit of a staircase shape, and that's because they work on the model training principle. Time by time, you train an AI model to extract data, then you actually keep using the same model. But the performance degrades. It's sloped down there in each staircase step because until you retrain, since your input data and output needs keep changing, the performance degrades. So how does Rossum instant learning work? With our instant learning, in purple in this graph, an Aurora AI engine for each customer learns after every single document, and that's simply from user feedback in the Rossum app. So you can see the improvements in real time, and it makes this curve really smooth. And that way, you get way faster time to value, and that's just from users processing documents with no IT team overhead. And with Rossum Aurora 1.5, you get this real-time AI learning experience in 276 languages, and including handwriting for 30 languages. You mark the data you need on a document, a second document, third document, in any of those supported languages, and you see the system picking up information across these languages and learning in front of your eyes. And this works in a team setting too, so you can take turns with your colleagues abroad that are experts in other languages perhaps, and it just keeps working. So what do our customers say? MTech, one of our esteemed partners, is the research institute of the Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group, and they provide financial solutions that are tailored for the business leaders in the Japanese financial sector. And they were part of a select group of customers who had early access to this feature, and they can now enjoy the power of instant learning on complex Japanese documents, in particular when extracting tables contents. And previously, they needed large amounts of training data to process documents in their IDP solution. But now with Aurora Instant Learning, it requires minimal input to get going, and that's transformative for them. And now, let's look at how this works in a real demo. Let's welcome Matt Brass to the stage. Welcome, Matt. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Well, Matt, take it away. Show us how it works.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter. So if everyone can see my screen, awesome. I see it. What I want to go through today is building off of that, right? So we can now process a huge amount of new languages, and we want to leverage that for instant learning. So if you can see my screen here, I'm looking at a bunch of different invoices. Rossum is designed to do this, and we're going to be able to now take this to the next level. So as you can see, I have a bunch of different invoices, and each one of them is actually in a different language in this case. So huge amount of different languages. And you could see here, as far as the fields, already I've dropped these into Rossum, and Rossum is able to extract data from the documents. So you could see these are in all different languages. I'm capturing fields like the vendor name, address, the issue date, and so on. One thing I want to note here is that I've created 2 custom fields here. So there's discount terms I want to pick up, and in this case, there's also the the shipment amount, how much it costs, right, for shipping. So I've put those both in here, and Rossum doesn't know how to read these yet. I've just created them. So I'm going to leverage instant learning in this case to teach Rossum what I'm looking for in one language, and Rossum should be able to take that information and now read all these different documents in different languages to find the same information. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up an invoice. You can see all different formats. Everything is completely different. Let's start here. So I'm going to open this Greek invoice. Unfortunately for me, I can't speak Greek or read it for that matter. So I'm looking at this invoice, and I'd love to go through this and validate data and teach Rossum what to do, but I can't understand it. So to help me out, I'm going to do some translation. So you can see now I've grabbed what I saw in Greek, and I've actually translated this to English that I can understand it now. So right here, I can look for my shipment amount. I'm going to teach Rossum what I'm looking for. If I come down here, you can see here's my shipping and delivery. So I'm going to select that. Awesome, that's correct. And I can grab this in English, which is unbelievable, even though this is a Greek document. And now I'm going to grab my discount terms. So I can see they're right here. So I can grab those as well. So what I can do now is I can actually turn this back to Greek. You could also see capturing here. I'm capturing this in Greek, even though I'm reading this in English. So if I wanted to switch back, boom, I'm right back to my original language, my original document here. And I'm going to show Rossum what I'm looking for. So in this case, I'm showing the AI, I created 2 new fields. This is what I'm looking for across these fields. And I'm going to apply this across all of my different languages. So I'm going to confirm this document. So I've now showed Rossum what I'm looking for. What the AI is going to do is it's going to now go through the rest of my documents in all different languages, and it's going to look for the same fields that I just taught it how to read. So in this case, my shipment amount, my discount terms. When I go back to look at my documents, we're going to see what we could do. So before, both columns were completely blank. I'm going to take a step back now, and you can see Rossum has gone through my documents, and it has started reading these 2 new fields in all different languages. So let's say I take a look at this invoice in Chinese. Let's take a look. And you can see here, same thing as before. I'm capturing all these fields beautifully, but now I have my shipment amount and my discount terms. So before I couldn't read that. Let me take a look. Let me check. That's correct. And that is also correct. So Rossum has been able to, with one document, instantly learn what I'm looking for. I've taught it how to read these new fields. It's applied that across all of these different languages and started doing the same to all these invoices. And you could see I'm most of the way there. I've only showed it one document, which is enormous. So glad to show off the instant learning. That's all from me, Peter.
Thank you so much, Matt. Somehow, even though I've seen it tens of times, it still feels like magic to me. Now, before we get to our fireside chat and the Q&A section, I know you are curious about the deep dive into our second release for today. and that's for Rossum formula fields with Copilot. So let's talk about these data transformations that I mentioned. The fact of enterprise life is that businesses require clean data in their downstream system of record. And often this data is missing from documents, or it's not in the required output format, or it varies by region and needs to be normalized. And it's still best to clean it during the data capture phase or transaction processing phase, because revisiting the document later is even clumsier. And there are so many examples to call out. The need to remove spaces from IBAN maybe, or making sure the BIC or SWIFT code is in uppercase, adding leading zeros so that there is a fixed number of digits, or calculating price after a complex discount rule. Let's imagine that you don't have this data transformation automated. In that case, for example, for each IBAN, you would have to do so much manual work, manually click on it, seek all the spaces, and then remove them, and so on. And if you have this in multiple fields, this quickly adds up across fields, and it totally destroys any automation. Moreover, if you miss something, any kind of data inconsistency or errors in the exported data, it bites you back. It can lead to additional effort and time that's spent processing these documents in other systems and in other teams, and that lowers automation because of manually calculating and entering this data. So this is really annoying. So how do you deal with this problem? Well, you can maybe give up on the automation and accept this fact of life as manual work, or you can set up an automation, but at the cost that you might get blocked on IT availability for 6 months and then pay many, many days of IT architect work to get it done. And that's a terrible choice. But this is another place where the expected cost savings for companies from digital transformations, as McKinsey talked about them, where those costs leak out. But still, this would have been the real world today for IDP process owners in many enterprises. Well, we have a third way out. And this exact situation is why we are incredibly excited to introduce the formula fields with Copilot. Because we believe that data transformations should be automated, but easily, not as rocket science. That's why we are enabling business users to define automated data transformations using natural language commands. That way, you get the data into your ERP exactly like you need it. And you do that while not adding extra burden on your IT, on external consultants, etc. You just, as long as you are a process expert, you just use this plain language to specify what you need. And we believe this is a glimpse into the future of enterprise overall. And in particular, this is how users will configure all aspects of our platform over time. Of course, anyone can say that and show a cherry-picked shiny example, but the tricky part is making this robust enough so that the app consistently gets it right. Or if it doesn't, everyone makes mistakes, and even AI makes mistakes. The platform needs to let you solve any issue without calling on programmers, even if it stumbles a bit. And making it eminently practical is the only thing that matters to us. And thanks to that, you can try this out right now in our free trial and judge for yourself. And that's why we won't show you a shiny example, but we have a pretty intense live demo lined up with many examples in just a second. So let's see how well Matt does. But ultimately, that's why we can already talk about value that this delivers to customers right now. So one piece of feedback we have got is from Fugro. Fugro is a multinational public company headquartered in Netherlands, and they are primarily a service company that's focused on some geotechnical and geoscience services across the world. Essentially, what they do is they map the surface and subsurface of Earth, pretty cool thing, and they operate worldwide to achieve that. And they were among a select group of customers that we have given early access to the formula fields with Copilot, and they provided us with their feedback. And they did have their doubts that it might be something too good to be true, but they say they quickly found out how many data transformation tasks they could actually automate calculating taxes, setting due dates, filling in missing payment terms using natural language commands, etc. And the impact this had on Fugro is faster processing, higher reliability, and ultimately tangible results in terms of impact on their digital transformation project. And that's exactly what we aim to deliver to enterprises here at Rossum. So we are very glad they found it useful, that they found it a robust solution and not just AI snake oil. And ultimately, we are very glad that we can help inspirational companies like Fugro. And now, let me pass the screen to Matt once again to give us a live demo.
Thank you. So what I want to do here is, first off, thank you, Peter. It's a great overview of everything we've gone through so far. What I want to talk about here is specifically our formula field with Copilot. So this is one of the biggest questions that I get from customers. It is a huge leap forward as far as the way that we're going to go through this. And really what I want to get at here is, Rossum has incredible data capture capabilities, and we've all seen that. We saw that with the last demo. What I really want to focus on here is capturing the data is only getting so far. What we really need to do here is kind of take that data and take it to the next level. So everyone has a specific process, specific things that they do, specific things they're looking for. So to get my data into my end system, it might need to be in a specific format. I might need to do some transformations. There might even be something I need to match to my process. So a lot of our customers ask, when I'm using Rossum, can I make changes? How do I go about making changes? What's the lift involved with that? Who do I need to get involved? And what we want to talk about today is being able to take that step without having to involve, let's say, IT resources. Where in the past, I would have to make a request. This would take some time. I, maybe would have to go through a couple iterations, design loops. In this case, we're giving that power to the people closest to the process. So if I wanted to make a change, I need to, have a specific format, specific thing I'm looking for. It should be as easy as just adding it in and making that possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bit of a challenge here. There are a couple of different business rules I'd like to implement, and we will use AI to create these custom fields, these custom flows, and I'll be able to show that off, and we're going to do this live. So if we can jump to my screen, perfect. What I've done here to save some time is I've just created these fields. They don't do anything yet, so we're going to get to building them and making them do what we need to do. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump in, and the first thing I want to do is I want to calculate my VAT amount. So if I click on this is a formula field. And what you can see here is I scroll down and I have the option to use Copilot to edit my formula. More or less what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask Copilot, I'm going to tell it what I'm trying to do, and it is going to write me a formula to make that possible. So if I come over here and say, if the VAT amount is missing, I want to calculate the difference between the total and base amounts. So what I can do is I can update my formula. You can see it's loading. Copilot is seeing what I've asked it to do. It's figuring out how it's going to do that for me. And you can see here, it's created a formula that calculates the VAT amount by taking the difference between the total amount and the total without tax when the total tax field is empty. So I want to see, all right, this is great. It's written me a formula. What does that look like? So I can test, scroll down here, and you can see here that Rossum is taking the total amount and the amount of total tax, and it's going to go in here and it's going to calculate my VAT amount when my total tax is empty. So you can see here, I had my total base, my amount total, and you can see it's doing the math here, and I'm getting my calculated VAT amount. So I've been able to go through that. I've been able to test this out. I know that looks good. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And I can save this and I can move on to the next formula. So moving along, the next one, I want to capture my vendor postal code. So I'm going to come down here, same flow. I'm going to go to Copilot. I'm going to prompt it with what I am looking for. be able to enter that in here. And I'm going to update my formula. So again, entered in this information. I prompted Copilot. It's thinking. It's figuring out what I'm trying to do. And you can see extract EU and UK postal codes from the vendor address using pattern matching. Let's see. If no valid postal code is found, it's going to create a warning. So it's going a bit above and beyond, right? We're using generative AI. So let's see what I got here. So you could see in this case, if I could expand on this. So I have my postal code. And again, have my postal code, have my postal code, and have my postal code. So you can see here, this one, I don't have a postal code, and it's created a warning here letting me know that postal code couldn't be found. So perfect, exactly what I've been looking for. So I can save that. And you can see how quick this is, right? With the past process, I'd have to go through, make requests. And of course, with generative AI, I can continue to prompt it, right? If it doesn't give me what I'm looking for initially, I can do a Copilot edit. I can amend my formula, right? And I can continue to work towards what I'm trying to do. So for my next one, what I want to do here is I want to normalize my vendor VAT ID. So again, same idea. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to enter my formula. And this is my rules for normalization, right? I want to remove special characters and spaces. So I'm going to update my formula. It's going to think about it. It's going to figure out how to do that for me. And now I have a formula that removes all my special characters and spaces from my vendor VAT ID, keeping only alphanumeric characters. So let me give it a test. And you can see, perfect. I've gotten rid of the dash. I've put it in the format I need. And now I have this field ready to go, ready to push out and export. And there's nothing else I need to do on the other end, right? It's ready to go right from square one. So I can save this. Awesome. So we're moving right along. All right. So the next one is I want to standardize my PO number. So same idea, going through, doing my edit. In this case, I have some different rules for what I'm looking for. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to let it know. So the first thing I want to do is remove all non-numeric characters from my PO. Then I'm going to check if it starts with a 45. If not, I'm going to add 45 to the beginning. After it changes, the PO should be 10 characters long, right? If it's not, I'm going to create a warning. So I'm going to update this formula. It's going to think about this. It's going to implement. And you can see now I've removed all numeric characters from my PO number. And I've ensured it starts with a 45. I'm going to take a check. It has to be 10 characters long. And you can see here, right? This one isn't 10 characters. This one actually doesn't even have a PO. So what's happened here is I just added the 45. Now, this is a great, opportunity to make this better. So I can edit here and I can say, I'm going to ignore if there is a missing PO. So I'm going to update. And what we should do here is get rid of my my one that didn't have PO. Perfect. Did exactly what I was looking for. This is exactly how I want to normalize. This rule works wonderfully, and I'm going to save that. Okay, moving right along. So the next thing we want to do is we want to format a date, right? So I'm going to format my invoice date in the format that I want. This format is going to be year, month, day. That's what I'm looking for. So again, I'm going to edit. I'm going to convert the date to the format I want, and I'm going to let Rossum do that for me. So really easy, takes a few seconds, and here we go. It's going to convert my issue date to the format I'm looking for, and I can test it, and it's going to show a warning if I don't have a date. And you can see here, here's my date, here's my newly formatted date, which was exactly what I asked it for, and that's perfect. Okay, moving right along. We're going to validate our due date. So what I'm going to be able to do here is I'm going to create a new rule. And And this is how I'm going to validate my due date. So what I'm going to do, Copilot edit again, and I'm going to extract the number of days from the payment terms and compare them to the number of days between issue date and due date. So I'm going to update it. Okay. So what it's going to do here, it's going to compare my terms days with the actual days between issue date and due date, and it's going to return match if they align. Otherwise, it's going to return the that there's an issue. So if I look here, you can see perfect. If it matches up, it matches. If it doesn't, it's going to let me know that there's a mismatch and then give me information about my terms and my actual days. So what I can do here is that looks great. I can ignore, I can continue to edit this if I wanted to. For instance, I can go in here and ignore if my terms are missing or if there's a date instead of a number of days in the terms. So I can update it here. And we can see this is perfect, right? Exactly what I'm looking for. This looks great. So I can save this. I can validate my IBAN. Come over here. Awesome. So I'm going to normalize and validate the IBAN has the correct structure. I'm going to let that think about it. And we're going to see what we got. Perfect. So it's going to validate the IBAN by removing spaces and special characters, checking the length, validating the structure. And you can see here that it's actually validated my IBANs here. So that's exactly right. These are the IBANs. In this case, I need to remove spaces, right? So what I want to do here, remove all spaces. I'm going to update the formula. And we're going to take a look, and perfect. That's exactly the format I need them in. That is how I want my IBAN. I'm going to be able to save that. And now finally, there's one more rule that I want to implement. We've made it to the bottom of the list here. And this is to take the sum of my line items. So what I'm going to ask Rossum to do here is I want to calculate, let's see, I'm going to calculate the sum of my line base amounts and compare it to the invoice base amount. So doing some math here, having it make me a formula, get this done. And we'll be able to test. So you can see what it's done here is actually calculating the sum of the line item base amount, and it's going to compare it to the total without tax. So it's actually going a bit above and beyond. And what it's going to do, it's going to show a warning if there's a discrepancy greater than 0.01. So let me test the formula. And you can see here, I have my line items. It is taking the sum, and it is doing that correctly. And it's even creating a warning here in some cases. So you can see this is different. It's following my rules. It's creating that warning, and it's taking my process to the next level. So these look great. I'm going to save it. We're going to take a look back at my documents, and we'll be able to see all of my formula fields. So if I grab a document here, we should be able to come in here and see. And you can see if I go up to my fields, I'm grabbing all of that data that we talked about, that we formatted, and it's all coming out exactly how I wanted it to. I didn't need to involve anyone else. I just prompted Aurora. I prompted Copilot, and I was able to get it to do exactly what I needed it to do. And now I'm not just capturing data accurately, I'm actually putting it into the format I need it to use it. So I'm taking care of everything in one step and taking a huge leap forward. Of course, didn't take much time to get it all done. And thank you for everyone for sticking with me. So thank you, Peter. That's all from me.
Thank you, Matt. This is really amazing. I timed you about 10 minutes for all those rules to implement. I think that's a pretty good time. So thank you for walking us through this in so much detail. This has been, this is, from my perspective, a very exciting feature. So many people talk about coding with AI, but and implementing it like this is how you make business impact. So if we can, Rame, you can switch us back. One more thing I want to emphasize is that we have designed this as a robust enterprise-ready tool. And how we actually achieve this behind the scenes, I just wanted to give you a little sneak peek, but you can also see it in the app, is we have some top-class large language models prompted for extra robustness that process the human input during configuration phase. And the large language models, they generate some static code that represents the rule. And just the code is executed for each document. And we have designed the code format so that it's readable even by non-programmers. Even if they don't usually even see the code, we still care about it. And we have a lot of innovation behind the scenes around it. This means that the Rossum's data transformations are auditable, because you can anytime take a look, okay, what code is being executed. You can troubleshoot that. You can read it even as a non-programmer. It's secure and reliable because there is no risk of hallucinations or some prompt attacks in incoming documents from untrusted senders. And that's because there is just static code running at that moment, not the large language model, not the AI processing untrusted data. And that also means that you don't have to carry some operational costs that would be associated with running LLMs for each incoming document. Executing this code is way cheaper than LLMs. So I think the code infrastructure here is by itself actually a very interesting piece of IDP technology, because it brings all those advantages. And we are going to talk about it more in the future. We call it TX script internally. But I wanted to also wrap up our deep dive with this, because this is a good example of a robustness philosophy that we always adopt when bringing AI to the enterprise. Now, Rami?
Thank you so much, Peter, for this very insightful look into how formula fields with Copilot works. We saw instant learning. Matt has given us a very insightful demonstration, but now I believe would be the perfect time to welcome to the stage our very special guest. Christoph is automation lead at the IAG GBS, part of International Airlines Group. We're very excited to have you, Christoph, with us.
Hi, glad to be here.
Perfect. Now I hand things over to Peter to lead us off, and I hope that everyone will enjoy this insightful conversation.
Thank you, Rami. Welcome, Christoph. Pleased to meet you. Pleased to talk to you again. So before we kick things off, can you please briefly introduce yourself and the International Airlines Group Global Business Services?
Okay, so my name is Krzysztof Wiss, and I do a little bit of everything, mostly work with Rossum and automation. Our team is called Automation Center of Excellence. We support finance operations with regards to maintenance and improvement of processes and systems. We deal with SAP, Ariba, a lot of Microsoft Office also, because Excel is important everywhere, even here. And we keep improving and automating as much as we can. And IAG GBS, we are global business services for International Airlines Group, which means we handle billing, invoices, and so on.
Awesome. That makes total sense. And your company or your business unit is exactly who we designed Rossum for. So please stay on the stage. So how did the formula fields feature impact your team's workflow, and what specific challenges did it help you address? Is what I wonder about, or what business problems are you solving with formula fields?
Okay, so first of all, it made everything much faster and simpler and understandable. So before formulas, we did manage with extensions a bit, which are like outside programs that operate on the annotations. And they worked, but they took a lot of time and effort and could get very complicated very fast. And now with formulas, we can just live on call introduce new fields, new features, or change old ones without any delay. And it's also quite simple, as you have shown us. In plain English, it's just described what they do. So it helps a lot. So
That's awesome. Can you just give us 2-3 examples of some concrete business problems that you solve with formula fields or the concrete data transformation rules?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so first of all, normalizations, as you presented, there were a lot of them, and now they are quite simple. So I don't think there is a lot to say about that. But hard coding itself, just getting the formula to say something in quotes, is also very useful as, for example, a filter when we access a database and we want a particular queue to look for something particular in the database. So that was very useful. And complicated use cases too, like we have PO types. Regarding on the PO, there is a bunch of logic that loads data from the database, and then it just prepares a single string that then gets passed later to SAIP. It improved a lot. And a lot of simple things like debit credit indicator or concatenating a lot of fields into one instead of doing that manually. A lot of help.
Awesome. And when you implement all those transformations, I just wonder how much, because I think you are a programmer yourself, right? So I just wonder how much do you wrote the formula of code directly, and how much do you end up using the Copilot functionality, and maybe how helpful and robust do you find the AI Copilot in practice?
Okay, so it's one of those invisible technologies. When the less you think about it, the better it is. So usually I just write into the Copilot prompt, and most of the time it returns a perfect function, which is in Python. It can be accessed and edited, and it almost always is just a couple small changes on my part if the formula field is a little complicated. But it takes very little time, especially when I want to do things like regular expressions or something.
It's awesome. So at this stage, how comfortable are you having your non-technical or maybe technical but non-Rossum expert colleagues managing and maintaining those formula fields with the Copilot?
Yeah, so when it comes to simpler or intermediate formula fields, they can do it. It's quite self-explanatory and accessible for people. I did arrive to some working changes when I came back from this year's holidays, and it was all fine. My manager added a field for overwriting tax generating field. I mean tax code. So I think it's quite accessible to anyone. Of course, when there are huge formulas, 1,000 lines in Python, 1,000 characters, that is something that I should probably look at. But other than that, quite simple.
If you can get your manager to cover for you while you are on vacation, that feels like kind of the perfect outcome for me. Maybe curious for organizations that still rely on some manual or semi-automated processes, do you have some advice that you would give them about adopting AI-driven solutions like Rossum? Some important experience you got through this?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, just go slow, try a single solution, see if it brings tangible effects, if do calculations if it is worth it, and yeah, check if what you're buying is not a ChatGPT wrapper, and yeah, just keep records of how well it works.
Makes sense. Unfortunately, a lot of those ChatGPT wrappers on the market recently, but I guess the difference shows soon enough when you actually try to roll something out in practice, right? International airline group. By the way, what kind of well-known international airlines are part of this group? Can you give us an example?
British Airways.
All right. So yeah, a pretty big one. I'm curious, looking ahead, how do you see AI-powered process automation overall evolving at the IGGPS?
Well, I'm a big fan of AI and keep up with the news. The next thing I think that will arrive will be AI desktop automation that sees the screen and clicks on things, which will be a very interesting times. Yeah, I think that's where the next step is headed, and of course, the already existing tools getting better and faster.
Yep. We are watching those improvements too, and it is pretty exciting. Already thinking how can we leverage this type of technology as well. Krzysztof, thank you so much for sharing your experience, for showing your story in the international airline group implementing Rossum. And I'll be glad if you hang out with us still for the Q&A, which is coming up in a minute. Thank you so much, Krzysztof.
Thank you too.
Awesome. All right. So you've heard it from our customers, but let's just take a look at the hard data to wrap everything up. What is our impact in Rossum on overall productivity? So far, we have helped reduce manual work for hundreds of enterprises worldwide. And in the course of that, at Rossum, we are actually currently processing $1.3 trillion worth of transactions each year. And this amount grows at a rate of 100% year over year. Those transactions, they come from 11 million unique sender entities. And by automating those transactions, we have saved humans 44 billion error-prone keystrokes. And that translates to 6,500 human years of manual data entry saved so far. But of course, we continue working hard. And for us, this is still just the beginning. Our mission is we imagine a world where one person can process 1 million transactions per year, end to end. And the whole team here, the whole amazing team here at Rossum is working really hard and working together, doing whatever it takes on the AI side, on the business process side, on the integration side, improving the product and improving the value that we deliver to our customers further. And right now, we keep focusing on the challenges around enterprise complexity that we talked about, because we believe that digital transformation should fulfill its promise and should not get bogged down on practical issues related to rollout, setup, AI quality, etc. So we are working on even more enablement of those many national enterprise use cases by human-friendly configurability of custom needs across the map, because each enterprise has so many of those custom needs. So I can't wait to show you what we have in store to release for our next product launch very, very soon. But now, if you have any questions, I would like to welcome back Krzysztof and Matt, and of course, Rami, to the stage.
Thank you so much, Peter, for this great summary. I believe now we have reached the point to answer any questions from our audience members. We have been receiving a flood of those, so we're just going to jump right into things. We have a question from Stefan van de Zande. When will all these changes, Aurora 1.5, Copilot, invoice translation, and the user interface, etc., come to life? I believe this question can be answered by Peter. Do you want to go with this one?
Absolutely. So all those changes, regarding Aurora 1.5 and the Copilot and the formula fields, those are live right now. You can and you can try out the Copilot in your trial. If you are an existing customer, you can talk to your account manager about transitioning to those features if you'd like to start using them. Regarding the invoice translation in the user interface, that's not publicly available yet. But if you are interested in piloting functionality like this, again, please talk to your account manager.
Perfect. Moving on to the second question we have from Jonathan Tayar, and I believe this one is addressed to Matt. When are the formulas run? When relevant source fields are updated? At any other time?
Yeah, so we have options here when it comes to formula fields. Moral of the story is that you can run the formula field. It's automatically updated anytime it's needed. So there's any time you want to update it, it's automatically done. It's going to be current. It's going to be recent as long as the formula is running.
So basically, with some of the custom code extensions, serverless functions we already have in Rossum, you have to implement a logic deciding when to update what. But with formula fields, it's completely behind the scenes. You don't need to worry about this at all. It just always is up to date as it needs.
Perfect. Moving on to another question from Ryan McTighe. Can you build these business rule formulas for all invoices and then apply a different set of business rules for a specific client and or vendors? I believe maybe also Christoph can share some of his experience as well. Maybe Peter, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, you definitely can just in formula say, if this vendor, then this, and if not, then some other logic. But I would recommend creating multiple queues and maybe a sorting queue that automatically sends invoices into particular queue based on which vendor it is. I think that is the best solution. And then every queue has a different logic in the formula.
Tremendous. Moving on to a question from Arlene Upton. Can Rossum pull data from images, JPEGs, and PNG? Peter, do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. So yeah, Rossum can process PDFs. Rossum can process machine-readable XMLs, of course, if needed, and Rossum can ingest those images as well. So if you have scans in PDFs, in PNGs or JPEGs, Rossum just applies OCR to it and reads all the information you need.
All right, wonderful. We do have some time for one more question, and that will be from Nikolai Emmer. Just 1 second. There we go. It might be a bit off topic, but with Aurora 1.5 is the ability to capture some field data from multiple non-continuous lines possible. Example, I want to capture this long text up to this point here. Peter, do you want to take a jab at this one, or shall we move on?
So it depends on the specific layout. So here is where it's best to talk to our team, to our AI training specialists, to take a look at the specific case. But in general, I would say the answer is yes, you can fine-tune the system to capture the part of the data you need. But it's best to check the concrete case with your AI training specialist.
Perfect. We've got one more question from Anita Day, and I believe we'll have to wrap things up. With the translation of language, will it be able to translate a shortened description to add to the invoice description field? Either Matt or maybe Christoph, you want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, sure. So, yes, we could do that. We actually execute that with a separate Rossum extension.
But also watch our future product launches, because this is going to get easier. Not to spoil things too much.
Perfect. I think we've reached the end of our Q&A session. I want to take this moment to thank everyone involved in making this launch a huge success. We cannot wait to hear all the feedback from our customers, from our partners, from our community who's watching today. I want to thank the speakers, Christoph, Automation Lead at IAG GBS. Thank you for joining us. Matt Brass, pre-sales engineer at Rossum, and our co-founder and chief technology officer, Peter Baudis. Thank you so much. Whoever is watching and has submitted a question, we will definitely make sure to answer them in private. I do apologize because of the shortness of time. It's a very exciting launch. We're very excited to be releasing this, and we can't wait for the future. I believe there will be even bigger launches. So thank you all for joining, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Yeah.